You know, your shirt reminds me. What more can they take from me?
Yeah.
What? Okay, first they took away the 99-cent store. Then they took away Party City and Joann's in quick succession.
Yeah.
Okay, I found out a couple weeks ago that apparently Come and Goes don't exist anymore.
Like the Alexander.
They're Maverick or some shit.
Yeah, right.
And now, I'm sorry, this is...
What?
Now, Bahama Breeze is gone?
Bahama Breeze is gone.
Bahama...
If you know a place where we can get like a nice beef patty, that would be great. Because our beef patty place is now gone.
The beef patty? The freaking Bahama, what is it? Bahama colada or whatever? It was like 7 different layers of flavor. Like, the guava barbecue.
It's tragic. The jumbo chicken wings. It's honestly a classic.
What else do you... You know what? And I have to do, like, okay, I have to alternate because, like, they're, like, not besties anymore. What else is Elon Musk going to take from me? What else? Okay, I would just like to be prepared.
Twitter's gone.
Twitter, oh my God.
You can't
Twitter was the first casualty, actually. Anyway, first of all, what up, Hope Biscuits? It's your girl Skitten back at it again. Not only am I here with my husband, who looks fantastic, and made me this truly excellent, this is actually the best cup of tea that you've made me in like a long time. You didn't forget the sugar this time. I think that's what it is.
What kind of sugar's in there?
It's fake, huh?
Fake sugar.
I fucking knew it.
We finally weaned you off of that real stuff. Next is Fent.
Oh God. Not only am I here with my husband, but there's a new Tier Zoo tier list.
Yeah.
And I got to get this one because Chavez wanted the stupid beetle video.
Shit was so good, dude.
And now we're here to watch a thing about mollusks. And I'm very excited about it.
Let's do it. Get me in here.
Also, weird thing that I learned. Did you know that snails are considered shellfish? So if you're allergic to shellfish, you can't eat snails?
I thought they were mollusks.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying.
They don't call it a mollusk allergy. You must not be that allergic to them.
Oh my God. All right. Oh shit.
He's just gonna... Oh!
Shit. I thought he was gonna crush
Oh! No, they really scrapping.
Mollusks are one of the most diverse factions in the entire game.
Hell yeah.
Indeed, much more diverse than I think most players realize. They're extremely popular both among casual and competitive players, with some builds demanding incredible levels of skill to pilot, while others are practically AFK. And with so many different potential mollusk builds to choose from, it can be difficult to know which builds are actually competitively viable in the current meta. So today, we're going to go through the mollusk tier list. While I attempt to cover as many of the popular well-known builds as I can, mollusks are an extremely broad category, second only to arthropods in terms of number of individual members.
This is what people's family trees used to look like back in the day, when like their grandpas had like 5 different families and 5 different cities.
Can we bring back a good economy so I can have a secret family up the road that never gets to meet my wife? They go, but he was at every birthday party. How did he do it? He was like, I don't know, man, working a lot of overtime. Those stories are great. I saw this one on TikTok where the girl figured out that her husband had a secret family. And everybody was like, literally, how did you not know? Like, they posted on Facebook together.
Oh
like,
my
what
God.
are you talking about?
I saw the story on TikTok where the guy was like, yeah, my grandpa had a secret family. And not only did he like have the secret family with the same amount of kids, but he named all of the kids the same names.
That's so good.
Because then you never like, if you... Charlie. Like the oldest son was named Antonio and the second oldest son was also named Albert, like in each family. So like it never matters.
Oh God.
But also my friend's ex dad named all of his sons the same name.
That's excellent. Excellent work, scumbag.
So inevitably, some are getting left out of this video for the sake of time.
Understandable.
Still,
the other option is to make your video like 2 hours long.
Yeah. What gives?
You could simply do that.
Right.
If you felt so inclined.
You know, thanks for like reminding him that there are options here. You don't have to keep trimming content. You can just keep making the video. One in each section.
You could actually do a video on
Every single one of these sections.
every little node.
Yeah. Why are you holding us back?
Still, by highlighting standout builds in both the high and low tiers, hopefully I can give you a good understanding of where the Mollusk faction fits into the current metagame, and will be able to fill in the gaps for yourself. But before we dive into the tier list, what is a mollusk?
Yeah.
And what are their common attributes?
That's what I need to start
Mollusks
with.
are a huge group,
Snail.
encompassing all gastropods, all bivalves, and all cephalopods.
Cephalopods.
While every
Bivalve.
group has its outliers,
Clams
most
and
factions
mo-
at
and-
least
and
have
mussels.
some consistency in their base stats. Birds tend to have pretty high mobility, mammals tend to have high intelligence, arthropods high defense, and so on. With mollusks, though, it's pretty hard to pin down any obvious through line. Pick any one stat and you can probably find a mollusk both at the top and bottom of the charts. But one thing you will not find is a mollusk with basic middle-of-the-road stats. While the numbers and combinations will vary greatly
Oh,
between
shit.
builds, one thing I've noticed
Yeah,
is that
that's
just about
crazy.
every mollusk has something extreme about it, with at least
That's
one stat
crazy.
being either incredibly high or abysmally low.
Somebody help him.
What's funny about that fight is he didn't want that. The
Right.
Eagle was like, this is not consensual.
I thought this was a fish.
My
like,
bad, bro. It's a misunderstanding.
Anyway, given just how hard it is to generalize them, we may as well just dive straight into the tier list.
Okay. Common.
At the bottom F tier, we have the common slug.
Oh, he's
Now,
getting
while this
brutalized.
build may look like it has all the downsides of the snail without any of the benefits of the snail's protective shell, yeah, it's pretty much exactly what it looks like. The garden slug genuinely has some of the worst stats in the entire game, with even its best stat being fairly
You gotta
big.
eat.
Its only defensive ability is its slime,
Yeah.
which does help ward off attacks from insects. It's a double-edged sword though, as their slime also leaves a trail, making slugs one of the easiest builds in the game to track down. Now, I will
There he
admit,
is.
there are some advantages to not having a shell. The main one being that
Just-
slugs can
just
slip through
squeezing
much
out.
smaller cracks and hide underground
Look,
much
Oh
more
shit!
easily.
He said,
However,
I'm
since they
leaving.
need to come out to feed anyway, this doesn't really help them avoid predation
Ah.
all that well. So with all these negatives and pretty much nothing else going for them, the snail
F
without
tier.
a shell is going in F tier.
Okay.
All right.
Next in F tier, we have the common clam.
Is it really a bad build?
Don't talk about your mother like that.
What's the joke here?
Clam is another word for vagina.
And his mom's a pussy?
Common clam. She's
A common pussy.
a.
A regular bitch? I like that. That was mean.
That exemplifies the extreme stat lines I was talking about to a T. With no eyes, terrible movement abilities, and no attacking moves, and no brain, the
Hey!
clam has to rely on only two stats, both of which are quite high. The first is their stealth, on account of the clam's surprisingly decent burrowing ability. By wedging themselves into the seabed, they can stay out of sight from most potential threats. But if an enemy manages to find them in spite of this, the clam has some of the heaviest armor of any mollusk, being able to deflect some pretty substantial damage. But with no ability to counterattack or escape, eventually a persistent attacker will deal enough damage to spell game over.
Ooh.
Damn!
Well, okay, technically clams can move, but I mean,
Ew.
come on. In the current meta, this just isn't enough.
Ew.
What's worse is that even though clams can burrow down to hide, in order to survive, they need to filter feed, and to do that, they must poke their most vulnerable weak point above the surface of the seabed,
Leave him
giving away their hiding
alone!
spot and opening themselves up to a devastating critical hit.
Just getting brutalized, bro.
At the top of F tier, we have the common snail.
Damn!
The garden snail has most of the same weaknesses as the previous two entries on the tier list, but
Right.
slightly less severe. Snails are every bit as slow and non-threatening as slugs, but they do
That is messed up, bro. All right? Leave your little cousin out of this.
least have a shell to help block attacks. They can even use their shell to shield bash attackers in a pinch, though this doesn't
That's-
do much
what?
damage.
I didn't know
However,
snails could
similar
do
to
that.
the clam, because of how slow
God
their
damn it.
movement speed is and how weak their counterattacks are, eventually an aggressive player will be able to punch through their defenses. So they're not the worst of the worst, but compared to some of the unique and powerful abilities we see
Wow.
higher up on the tier list, the basic snail build just isn't going to cut it.
So,
Mhm.
when my family and I used to live in San Diego,
Mhm.
the snails used to come out every time it rained.
Yeah.
Right.
Pop up the
And
woodwork.
they're all over the place, right? And if you're paying attention, you could walk around the snails, right?
Mhm.
Like you could. My little brother. My little brother only has good use of one leg. That boy cannot walk
Not so
around the
inclined,
snails.
yeah.
So he was fucking crushing snails every day. I have PTSD thinking about snails getting crushed. It was horrible. It was so, they were just.
The popping, snapping
Yes!
sound
Oh
of-
my
yeah.
god, they're just snail corpses all over the place. Oh my god.
Why don't you
And
bring him a little broom and sweep him out the way?
disgusting.
At the bottom of D tier, we have the scallop. The
I want
scallop
some
is essentially
scallops.
a more decked out version of the clam. Though it has a lower base defense stat than the clam, its
Scallops
weaknesses
are
are also
hilarious.
much less pronounced. Instead of being completely immobile, scallops, oddly enough, have the jet propulsion ability, something usually only found in cephalopods and box jellies. Though it has a high cooldown, this ability gives them an escape option if they're ever under direct attack, something every other build on the
tired
Skits so
now.
far desperately needs. Of course, being able to flee from battle wouldn't do them much good if they couldn't see attacks coming. But thankfully, scallops also spec into primitive eyes, enabling them to detect predators and reposition
know
themselves
that.
accordingly. In
I
theory,
forgot
anyway.
that, I guess.
One of the issues with simple eyes is that even the most basic stealth techniques, such as, for example, moving very slowly, can get past their danger sense, resulting in scallops getting regularly bodied by starfish. So while they're definitely a bit more versatile than some mollusks, I can't give them too much credit. Next in D tier, we're gonna have the
Yeah,
first
the
of the
nautilus.
This
cephalopods
is
on our
very
tier
cool.
list, the chambered nautilus. The nautilus is a slow-moving, armored scavenger build that sustains itself mostly on detritus and carrion that is sunk to the bottom of the sea. While being able to swim while rocking a tough shell is impressive, their terrible swim speed shows just how power-crept this ancient build has gotten. Their perception stat is also pretty mid, especially for a cephalopod, which on average have some of the best vision of any marine build. The Nautilus used to be a much more popular build until seals and sea lions were added to the game,
Right.
as their
Well,
high
that's
agility and
devastating.
armor-piercing bite gave them a crushing matchup versus the Nautilus. So, while it is impressive that the Nautilus has made it through some of the roughest balance patches in the game's history, the fact that they were driven to the depths by seals doesn't scream high tier to me.
I mean, the Nautilus still persisting, right? Some guys just like a Nautilus main for years. Like, bro, this is what I do.
Right.
You know what I mean? Slowly scoop, snack a little, sit.
First
Kinda
in
like
C
jellyfish.
tier, we have the geographic cone. This marine snail build rocks pretty much all the same strengths and weaknesses as your average snail,
Right.
with one major exception.
Okay.
This snail can one-shot just about anything.
Oh.
The geographic cone has a venomous harpoon which it uses to hunt fish,
Oh.
but it can also use it to defend itself in a
Oh.
pinch.
Well, we
Now, the
snatched his
geographic
ass
cone
up.
is still incredibly slow and really not all that stealthy, so actually landing a hit on a fish
Me.
is a bit of a challenge.
Right.
Still, this is one gastropod you really don't want to underestimate.
Damn.
The cone
It's
snail's
curvy.
harpoon pierces armor, so
Oh,
any
wow.
starfish main who thinks that all mollusks are easy pickings is in for a rude awakening. Next in C tier, we
Yeah,
have the
very
Dumbo
cute.
octopus. This is one of the strangest cephalopod builds in the entire game, and lacks a lot of the signature abilities players normally associate with
Right.
the octopus. But it also has a mix of other unique traits that normal octopuses don't.
Okay.
You see, the Dumbo octopus is a deep sea build, and on that server, the normal stealth techniques simply don't apply. Color changing and ink clouds aren't going to do a player any good when most of the
Yeah,
major
they're
threats
boring.
aren't relying on vision anyway.
Yeah.
So even though those abilities are what the octopus is best known for, unfortunately the Dumbo octopus has to find other ways to remain hidden from predators. And unfortunately, this means it needed to make even more trade-offs. Rather than using jet propulsion, which is a conspicuous and turbulent, but incredibly effective movement ability, the Dumbo octopus swims using large fins on the side of its mantle.
Right.
This is significantly slower, but a great deal stealthier too. This makes it too slow to catch fish, but it's still able to thrive off of its winning matchup versus crustaceans. Its webbed tentacles are perfect for surrounding and
Yeah.
capturing targets on the
That's
seafloor.
nuts.
So definitely an interesting build, but by having to sacrifice so much of what makes the octopus so overpowered, the Dumbo octopus is definitely one of the lower tier ones.
It's just
Yeah.
like a slow moving net build.
Yeah.
And at the top of C tier, we also have the first squid on our list, the bobtail squid. This is another cephalopod which uses a fairly unorthodox ability to boost its stealth. As one of the smallest cephalopods in the
So
game, the
little.
bobtail
Oh my
squid
God.
really cannot take
Brutalized.
any hits. So, in order to avoid most of the ocean's major threats, the bobtail buries itself during the day and only comes out at night.
Oh.
However, even under cover of darkness, the bobtail squid would still be at risk of being attacked. Though it's somewhat counterintuitive, on a night where the moon and stars are unobscured, detecting another player in the water isn't as hard as you might think. The shadows they cast in the water are highly visible and
Right.
give away a player's location immediately, making it very easy for predators lurking below to strike.
Oh,
The
shit.
bobtail squid deals with this by specking into an extremely rare and strange ability,
Translucence?
bioluminescence.
Ah.
It may seem backwards to
Bioluminescence.
hide by glowing, but doing so obscures the squid by removing its shadow. Of
Right.
course, this does make them easier to detect from above,
Right.
but attacks at night from seabirds are
Right.
much less common. The bobtail may have the lowest stats of any cephalopod, but its unique and creative way of hiding in plain sight keeps it out of the low tiers.
You keep
I can't give it
shining,
too much
buddy.
credit though, because while its strategy for stealth at night is clever, honestly it's not that good at hiding during the daytime,
It just digs.
having a seemingly worse ability to camouflage itself due to its bright coloration.
Leaf
At the
sheep, they're
bottom
so
of B tier, we
cute.
have the leaf sheep,
He's
a
B
sea
tier?
slug with a truly unique ability called kleptoplasty.
Huh.
Leaf sheep is able to absorb the chloroplasts from the algae it consumes, essentially stealing the algae's photosynthesis ability.
so cute.
This ability generates XP passively over time.
We need to find somebody to draw some leaf sheep merch.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say we need to find somebody to sell us a leaf sheep.
I don't think I want to own one. I don't. They probably don't live that long, huh?
Oh, I don't know.
Allowing them to grow, heal, and regenerate their energy without eating. It's hard to overstate how game-breaking this ability would be if it weren't on a character with otherwise pathetic base stats.
Right.
For a human, this would basically be like if sitting in the sun provided you with the same benefits as eating well and working out.
Hell yeah.
Unlike some of the sea slugs higher up on this list, the leaf sheep doesn't really have any defensive abilities.
Oh, shit.
But if you want a character that is extremely forgiving in terms of the resource management side of things, the leaf sheep may actually be the best build in the game for anyone looking for that chill casual
Definitely very
playstyle.
Pokemon
Yes.
coded.
On pretty much the
Squid!
exact opposite end of the spectrum, next in B tier, we
Hell
have the
yeah.
giant squid.
Big
Now,
body
obviously,
squid.
this thing's HP stat is extreme, with
Yeah.
it being the largest mollusk in the game. But one thing I bet
Terrifying.
you weren't expecting was for it to also have the highest perception stat of any mollusk.
This motherfucker's
I
a
mentioned
brute.
before that in the dark depths of the ocean, the normal stealth mechanics don't apply.
Come
well,
here.
the giant squid is the exception to this. Its eyes are so large, the largest in the game in fact, that even with only a tiny fraction of a percent of sunlight making it to the depths, the giant squid can still see. This is
see all
bad
your
news for
secrets,
all the deep
bitch.
sea builds that assumed camouflage wasn't necessary and spec'd their character accordingly. This incredible
I'm in
eyesight is
danger.
necessary for more than just hunting, though. Being gigantic unfortunately makes you extremely easy to detect
I was gonna
via
say, hell yeah.
echolocation.
I'm looking for my protein, bitch.
A big giant squid protein
Some
bowl.
fucking calamari.
Yeah, they're also delicious, unfortunately.
Gigantic unfortunately makes you extremely easy to detect via echolocation, so they have to remain vigilant constantly to avoid being ambushed by the Abyssal server's true apex predator. Luckily, their vision has a range just barely more than that of the whale's sonar,
Woo!
so as long as they're on top of their game, they should be able to outmaneuver and avoid
distracted.
attacks. On this same tier, I'm also going to include the Colossal Squid, which has many of the same traits as the giant squid, including massive eyes and incredible dark vision. The Colossal Squid does have a few subtle differences in its kit, though. It's slightly heavier, but also
Jesus
less mobile,
Lord.
relying on ambushes using its 2 extra long arms to capture prey, as opposed to the giant squid's more traditional method of rushing down a target with an array
Which
of
is way more
tentacles.
satisfying.
The Colossal Squid also has hooks on its arms, which do more damage
Oh,
and can
really?
inflict bleed buildup, making them much more dangerous for whales to attack, making up for their slower swim speed. However, at the end of the day, both the giant squid and colossal squid have terrible matchups against whales. And because of their large size, their energy upkeep costs are insane. So they have to play pretty much a perfect game to avoid getting smoked. Both are powerful builds if you know what you're doing, but not without their limitations.
Okay.
At the bottom of A tier, we have another sea slug, the
Yeah.
blue sea dragon. Similar to the leaf sheep, this slug also has the power to copy the ability of its main food source. But in this case, the blue dragon isn't consuming algae, it's consuming jellyfish.
Yeah,
the blue
so it's
sea
like
dragon
poisonous,
is able
right?
to absorb the venomous nematocysts from the
Yeah.
tentacles of their prey, and in
Nematocysts.
doing so, gains a massive buff in the form of an equally deadly sting at the tip of its frills. This is incredible, as the blue sea dragon is able to gain the most powerful ability of the jellyfish
Stop
faction
touching it!
without any of the awful downsides, like, being literally brainless and having no control over their own movement. Blue sea dragons also have much better stealth than a lot of sea slugs, using the counter-shading technique with a bright underbelly and dark blue backside, making them hard to see both from above and below. While not quite as OP as some of the cephalopod mollusks, the blue sea dragon definitely stands above all other slugs and snails as a unique and formidable outlier.
Okay.
Next in A tier, we have
We
the
all
common
love
octopus,
octopus.
a solid
Octopi,
representative of the octopus
octopuses.
faction as a whole.
Says-
It possesses the core abilities that define the octopus build, along with its inherent vulnerabilities. Its 2 standout strengths are stealth and intelligence. The
That's
common
so
octopus
cool.
boasts some of the best stealth in the game, capable of changing both its color and texture to blend seamlessly
That's just
into
so
virtually
fucking
any
cool.
environment. Dense weeds, jagged rocks, or barren seabeds. And if its camouflage fails and it's ever spotted, it can deploy an ink cloud to temporarily debuff the attacker's perception stat, usually buying enough time to escape. However, escape is often its only viable option,
Yeah.
as the octopus has some of the lowest defenses in the game. With no armor whatsoever, any hit it takes can deal devastating damage. Even in a server as perilous as the ocean, where threats abound regardless of armor, the common octopus must play cautiously.
Right.
Bites from everyday fish can pose a serious risk, so despite its impressive abilities, it requires careful strategy to survive. Speaking of bites, though, one lesser-known but important ability the octopus has is venom, which it delivers via a bite with its sharp beak. Finally, now's as good a time as any to say that although it's not a combat weakness, the octopus's biggest weakness is its low lifespan. Given that a lot of the octopus's best tricks need to be learned, either by observation or trial and error, the octopus's already powerful intelligence would be a lot more powerful if the devs allowed it to be refined over the course of a few decades, like dolphins, parrots, and humans get. This weakness is pervasive through the entire cephalopod faction, which is interesting because some of the other mollusks are pretty much the exact opposite. But yeah, this is why despite their many overpowered abilities, it's hard to give any cephalopods a top-tier rank unless they're truly broken in even more ways than usual.
Wow.
Now would be a great time for me to mention this thriller movie that me, Chavez, and Dr. D watched about psychosexual cephalopods.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
And they kept saying psychosexual cephalopods throughout the entire movie.
Yeah, it was like a whole thing.
Yeah.
It was a bad movie, but you should watch it.
It was good. It was a good movie.
Ranking slightly higher in A tier, the giant octopus adapts on the octopus archetype with one minor tweak, trading some stealth for greater strength, while it retains the ability to change color and texture to blend into its surroundings, and can deploy an ink cloud to escape threats. It's less adept at stealth than the common octopus due to its larger size, which makes it more noticeable when moving. However, this trade-off comes with significant advantages. Its above-average bulk gives it a wider margin of error in confrontations. Unlike the typically less brawny octopus builds, the giant octopus boasts impressive physical power, with arms capable of wrestling mid-sized sharks and a beak that deals substantial slicing damage, in addition to being venomous. It also shares the same intelligence that other octopuses do, enabling it to tackle problems and improvise solutions on the spot. Though it shares the same lack of armor as other octopuses, leaving it exposed to heavy damage, the giant octopus's enhanced strength and unique abilities more than offset its reduced stealth, marking it as a force to be reckoned with.
Wow.
Next in A tier we have the Humboldt squid, also known as the Red Devil. The Humboldt squid is the wolf of the ocean. It doesn't have the best stats in any one category. It's not the fastest, it's not the largest, and it's not the deadliest. However, it is well above average in all of those categories, and that, plus some impressive hunting tactics, makes it one of the most fearsome mollusks in the game. During the day, Humboldt squid mains hang out in the deep sea out of sight. But as it gets dark, the hunt begins, and the squid rise from the depths to attack. They hunt in packs, coordinating with each other in a pulsing red and white light. These feeding frenzies can tear through schools of fish in an instant, and then return back to the depths before builds like the dolphin can arrive to challenge them. Now, obviously communicating with light...
What did they fucking call that shit? Blitzkrieg!
Blitzkrieg!
They're fucking blitzkrieging the fish!
Come through, baby!
Before builds like the dolphin can arrive to challenge them. Now, obviously communicating with...
I'd like to think they give themselves 90s gamer tag names like Dark Wolf 48, Dark Sage Killer.
Pulses has the disadvantage of giving away your can arrive to challenge them. Now, obviously communicating with light pulses has the disadvantage of giving away your location. So faster characters will usually be able to avoid getting caught in the frenzy. But still, the fear factor alone of getting caught surrounded by large glowing red squid has to earn it a spot in A tier.
I'm telling you, the ocean is terrifying, bro. You're all paranoid, looking around, trying to stay unseen, then all these flashing lights.
Oh my God.
I'm fucked!
And last in A tier, we have the Mimic Octopus. The Mimic Octopus is a smaller mollusk with below average stats for its archetype. However, the Mimic Octopus uses its color change ability in a truly unique way, to shapeshift into the form of other marine characters. In doing so, it can trick other players into misplaying in many different ways.
Wait a minute.
The most obvious strategy is just to mimic a character with a powerful venomous ability, like a lionfish or sea snake. This will cause predators to leave you alone for fear of getting stung or bitten. But this technique can also be used on offense to trick a target into a false sense of security by mimicking something less dangerous like a starfish or flatfish. Now, while this is all extremely impressive, it's worth noting that the Mimic Octopus's options are fairly limited. It's most effective at mimicking characters that already share its black and white stripe appearance. When it attempts to mimic something else, it's admittedly a lot less convincing. And if their disguise fails, their below-average base stats leave them in a pretty vulnerable position should an enemy attack. A high skill, high reward technique, and one that deserves some pretty high recognition.
Yeah.
But one that's also easy to overestimate. It's clever, but not quite broken. Okay, we've finally reached the S tier.
Okay.
If you've watched up until this point and are enjoying the video, I'd really appreciate it if you took a second to subscribe to the channel.
I'm also here at this point of the video confused about what's an S tier if the giant octopus is not there.
Right.
Thanks.
Ah.
At the bottom of S tier, we have
Okay,
another
it is
small
another
mollusk with
octopus.
blue accents, the blue-ringed octopus. This is one of the smallest octopus builds in the game, but you wouldn't know it if all you saw was its power stat. The blue-ringed octopus has the deadliest venom of any mollusk, even deadlier than the geographic cone. Its venom is the same neurotoxin found in pufferfish, which can one-shot almost anything within only a few minutes.
Yeah.
Because of the blue-ringed octopus's insanely high damage,
so cute, though.
this build opts for the aposomatism technique, where rather than attempting to hide from predators using camouflage, when threatened, it instead boldly asserts its
like,
presence
I'm
with
here,
vibrant
bitch. What do you
neon
wanna
blue
do?
markings all along its body.
aggressive.
In doing so, it is essentially flexing on other predator players, saying it has no reason to fear them and daring them to make a move. This strat is common among players with powerful toxic abilities, and most players quickly learn that bright colors mean danger. Now, one of the usual drawbacks of this ability is that it dramatically cuts the player's own stealth stat. While this trade-off makes sense when it comes to scaring off predators, if you're a predator yourself, this makes the task of catching prey harder, as they'll be able to see you coming more easily.
Right.
But because of the octopus's innate color change ability, the blue-ringed octopus is able to switch its intimidation ability on and off, allowing it to remain stealthy
Whenever
when it
it
needs
wants.
to. Now, of course, because it's on the small side, there's always a chance an opponent could overwhelm the octopus and take it down before it had the chance to counterattack. But more often than not, this small octopus is turning the tide on anything that dares challenge it. While it's definitely a glass cannon, the blue-ringed octopus's incredible stats and unique ability to subvert one of its major weaknesses earns it a spot in S tier.
So
Okay,
sick.
I
On the
support
topic
that.
of subverting weaknesses,
It's not over yet.
next in S tier we have the coconut
What is
octopus.
that?
This is the octopus build with the highest intelligence stat of any mollusk, and the only one that makes tool use a core part of its strategy. The octopus's biggest
It's using the F tier stats to its benefit. What a beast.
weakness is its pathetic defense stat. And this was actually a direct nerf to overpowered cephalopod builds of the past. Many cephalopods used to have thick, sturdy shells like other mollusks do, way back during the Ordovician expansion. By using their incredibly high intelligence and tool use ability, the coconut octopus is able to regain access to heavy armor by equipping the shells of defeated scallops and clams. This makes them much less vulnerable to being picked off by a random attack from a fish or bird. In addition, kind of similar to the mimic octopus, most players don't have their guard up around a clam. So the shells also provide excellent cover to ambush opponents from. And after scoring a win, they can retreat to the safety of their shell to avoid getting it stolen.
If you made a Dark Souls type game based on the ocean, without the floating, just like the same way these, that it would be unfair.
Yeah.
It would not be a fair game.
Similar to leopards dragging their food up into trees to avoid hyenas. But shells aren't the only tools the coconut octopus has learned to incorporate into its combat repertoire. Using its water cycle, it can also launch debris at fish, making them one of the only builds in the game with access to a ranged attack. This is excellent at dealing chip damage without leaving the safety of the shell, meaning they don't fall into the same trap as clams by relying on defense with no means of counterattacking. Overall, this is truly one of the most impressive showcases of tool use in the entire game, other than humans, as it legitimately subverts one of the weaknesses of the typical octopus build without sacrificing any of the perks. An easy S tier rank.
All right, last one.
And now our final S tier, the cuttlefish.
Are they really
the
that
cuttlefish has a
effective?
number of impressive stats, including quite literally the
Thought they were
highest
just
stealth
cute.
stat in the game. It has the most advanced version of the color change ability, and is able to swap between colors at such an incredible rate that it can
Yeah, I thought that's all
basically
they
animate
did.
its skin. This means that in addition to standard camouflage, the cuttlefish can also use its appearance to confuse and hypnotize its prey, or startle and intimidate its predators. Though it may not have the ability to fire projectiles like the coconut octopus, its grappling arms give it a deceptively long reach, often catching players off guard and setting them up to get comboed into the cuttlefish's venomous bite. Even though the cuttlefish has no abilities which buff its defense, actually landing a hit on this agile and mesmerizing character is genuinely one of the most difficult things in the game. Their speed stat is a lot closer to that of a squid than an octopus, even though the rest of their abilities all align much more closely to the octopus. The cuttlefish combines the most powerful elements from both the squid, like high maneuverability and long reach, and the octopus, like intelligence, venom, and color changing, into one overpowered build. And for that, I'm ranking it as the #1 mollusk in the game.
Awesome!
That's the tier list. Overall, the viability of mollusks is super inconsistent. Best cephalopods are truly busted, but the faction is also filled with a lot of suboptimal jank and AFK farming builds. So there really is something for everyone here, from meta tryhards to low-tier heroes. Now, knowing which traits and abilities...
Excellent, dude. Well, thanks for joining me. I'm actually pleasantly surprised.
I had a great time.
Yeah.
I think my video was way better. And we didn't have to watch any weird sex stuff in mine. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to leave your reaction requests and recommendations down in the comments below. Also, since it is still the week of my husband's birthday, tell my husband happy birthday, or else.
Did you see how many people you intimidated in the last video? Can you stop? Fine. Happy birthday.
Peace out, Hope Biscuits. It's Skittin' Lit.